Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be on this New Year's Eve here in on the west coast of the United States. For many of you, Happy New Year to you because it's already 2021. We won't be there for another just under 7 hours over here on this coast. And I was talking to my guest about the fact that I was looking things up to find out like who's one of the last time zones to change over from the old year to the new year. And apparently, it's American Samoa, who is like 37th on the list, and the West Coast here in the U.S. is 33rd. So we're one of the last ones to experience the change from 2020 to 2021. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts. This is virtual interview / event number 105. So I am wearing the shirt that I wore for the very first interview back on May 22nd, just to make things all wrapped up together. And yeah, what a crazy experience during this year for this amount of time. As we've all talked about, that the sense of time has just gone out the window, and everything else that's happened, and people are hoping that the later part of 2021 is going to be better than how it starts, and but just the fact that we can kind of move into something else, and yeah, hopefully some kind of things start to work in our favor as a nation, as a world, and I am still very grateful for all the opportunities that I've been afforded during this time. It's been really, again, I've talked about this before, really miraculous that I've been able to spend so much time with so many different artists that I have such a huge respect for. Hi, Captain Blackwood. Happy New Year to you too. Hopefully things are good down there in Sin City. Things up here are pretty calm. It's kind of a gray, rainy kind of day, kind of dark. But thank you for being here, and it's so nice that I got a chance to meet you and some of the other Alice fans during the course of this journey, doing all of this, and we're calm-ish. Yeah, that's true. It is Sin City after all. Hi, Industrial Girl. Good to see you again. It's nice that I have these new friends now that I didn't know, before May 22nd, and that's all thanks to the band Alice. And if you have not checked them out, please do so. ILikeAlice.com. If you look them up, you can put AL1CE if you're doing any kind of a Google search. And yeah, it's I guess I'm just really, really fortunate that I've had a chance to do these interviews and just be artistic and creative during such a trying time. And what 2021 holds, at least from that aspect for me, there's probably going to be a little bit less, only because of my work schedule will start to kick in actually Sunday night. But there'll still be some pockets of time. And I can't get this out of my system. This is this is something that I enjoy doing. So as long as I enjoy doing it and the opportunities are there, then I'm keep pushing forward. So as I typically do, coming soon, as in Saturday. I was also telling my guests this too, that typically I tell myself I should take a break, to have a weekend off, a couple weeks, whatever. And then I also look at, well, if I have time, and I know that coming up in January, well, further into January, I really won't have as much time. I should keep moving along with things. So let's see. I was wondering when we were able to go out and all that, will you still do the interviews? That's a great question, Industrial Girl. I think it's not really up to me. And what I mean by that is that some of the artists, if they're going to be, if it's a band and they're on tour, if it's, an actor or a film person, it just kind of depends on what time they have in their schedules, because they'll all be doing their things. If I actually have events here to see in person and cover, review, photograph, then I'll be, doing that. I think really what's going to happen, that at some point the transition is going to be that I can do both, but there'll be less of this because I'll be spending some of my time, physically actually at an event, just like, everybody else. So I don't ever anticipate these stopping completely. As long as I can, again, find guests that are interested in coming on and doing something virtual. And even pre-pandemic, there was always opportunities to do. Well, back then it was more like you get these emails to do Skype interviews with bands to help promote their new album, that kind of thing. I always turned them down because I didn't have the technology to do it, but I still don't necessarily have the technology, but I have enough pieces with my phone here and my other little things that I have around to make this happen. So I guess the short answer to your question is that, yeah, I would love to still do these. And again, as the transition hopefully happens into 2021, if that's spring, summer, fall, then there might be less of these, and then more of in-person things. But my gut tells me that there's probably gonna be more of this and a little bit of that, hopefully by summer, fall, what have you. And that's just for things locally, maybe things from around North America, but anything international, I just don't see them ever being able to make things work here next year, unfortunately. But so yeah, I plan on doing this. So on Saturday, January 2nd, 2021, I will have my first virtual interview of the new year. So I guess I have to reset. It'll be number one, number 106 overall. And it's going to be a little bit different in the sense that take us with you on Twitch or otherwise. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely find out ways, since I'm getting more used to technology and streaming and things of that nature, of how to incorporate things and not. I don't ever see myself going completely back to how I was pre-pandemic. It's not going to be completely in-person things and just shunning live streaming. It's like, no, this is such a nice thing to connect with people, connect with guests. I don't have to drive anywhere. I'm comfortably in my home. So there's a lot of pros to this. But I just know eventually we're going to kind of mix things in. And yeah, Happy New Year to my mom, who just said that in the chat. Oh, it's actually on Twitch, I see too. So that's kind of good. But yeah, I plan on keep on doing things. So on Saturday, I have my first virtual interview. So I will start posting about that on my socials. And then the following Saturday, which is the 8th of January, I have the first fun table of the new year scheduled already. And it's going to be with two people that are guests that I was invited to interview on the Alice tour. So these are folks that the band were working with. And they say, hey, Mark, if you have time in your schedule, it'd be great if you could talk to so-and-so. So one person's already done the fun table sessions, which is Nicole Buffard. All of you know her. And the other person's brand new, though. He has not done one. We've been talking for a while, trying to get our schedules to work out. So he's going to be joining the fun table. And I'll let you know this right now. Clint Carney from System Sin is going to be my other guest on the fun table. And there might be a third one who's also in that same ballpark of being a guest that I got introduced to by Alice. But we'll kind of see. But those two are confirmed, and that's going to be early at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to accommodate Nicole, since she's on the East Coast. And that's, again, on the 8th. So in some ways, things aren't going to change. We're just going to keep plowing through and having fun with all this stuff. So, hey, I know my guest has a schedule to keep, so let's get to it. Number 105. My guest today is a professional ballet dancer with the Olympic Ballet Theater. He has also appeared on stage at the Fifth Avenue Theater. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Carlos, and I want to say his last name is Narvaez, but let's see if I got it right or wrong when I bring him in.
Hey, Mark. Actually, you got it right. You didn't butcher it.
Oh, yay. All right. I'm already winning.
No, yeah, that's good.
Good. How are you, sir?
Good. It's an interesting New Year's, No one's going out. We're having virtual fireworks. It's an interesting time to be alive.
It is. I keep seeing a lot of artists that are trying to promote, like they have some sort of live stream concert, something going on tonight, which is cool. Some of them were last minute, I didn't even know about some of them. And other people, I'd probably be watching, maybe a movie or two or three or four, or just going to sleep and saying, I don't give a shit about this year. I want to wake up in a new year and hopefully start, anew in some ways, obviously. But yeah, so I really appreciate you taking the time to actually do a formal one-on-one interview with me, because back in the summertime when I talked with you, I was like, oh, he's got so many things that I'm interested in. I should bring him in. And I just never got the schedule stuff to work. And then we know that, Rowan is your partner and she managed to come on. So I'm just so glad that I didn't run out of time in 2020 and actually get you on. So
Isn't that crazy? I feel like I've been on so many interviews, but we still haven't had our one-to-one.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah, he should be a permanent guest at this point. It's like, yeah, that's true. So for people that are watching this later, or just even people that are watching this now that maybe have missed the Fun Table appearances that you've done, tell everybody about your background. So what got you into dance? And then I know you're not from Washington, you're originally from other places. So if you can kind of speak to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm originally from San Francisco. I moved up to Washington about 3 years ago, never having been to the state. So yeah, I packed up my bags, moved up here, started dancing with Olympic Ballet Theater. But I got into dancing through my mom. I grew up playing baseball. I was a jock, and dancing was the last thing I would do.
Mhm.
And while we were in high school, we used to have electives, and we could choose whatever we wanted, just as long as our parents approved on it. So when it came to that time that my mom had to review my school schedule, she thought that, there's dance in the curriculum, and she wouldn't sign my paper unless I took dance class. So I hated it at first. All my friends just gave me the worst time. They're like, "Oh man, you're taking dance, this and that." But it wasn't after like a few weeks. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. Like I'm getting to meet different people, doing things I'm not used to, getting out of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
But ballet, I would say it probably was 1 year after I started dancing in high school. I did a summer intensive with a contemporary school called ODC in San Francisco. And that's where I got exposed to ballet class. So I started doing that, and then I started liking how rigorous it was. And then I met a friend there, and then he's like, "Oh, I started going to this school, which was the Academy of Ballet in San Francisco." So I took a class there. They accepted me into the school, and then that's what started my whole ballet journey per se. I was dancing pretty much 6 to 7 days a week, 6 hours a day. And this was at 18 when I started my ballet training.
Okay. So as you were, like you mentioned that you were a jock and an athlete, and then you started doing the dance class before you went to ballet, were you still trying to do both, meaning like doing dance and doing sports, or did one eventually just have to kind of fade away?
One eventually faded away. I had tried out for varsity baseball, and I realized I was not as good as everyone else. I didn't get to go to all the summer camps, so I knew where I stood. I'm like, okay, but I guess this opened up a new outlet for me, another challenge, and I think that's what I liked about it. Dance does not, if you're not a trained dancer, it's something you really have to work hard for if you want success. I mean, there are a few people who are born with the natural talents. They have the flexibility, they have everything you would want. And then there are the rest of us who have nothing. We have to stretch every single day. We have to probably work 3 times as hard to get some progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. I mean, I get some of the other professional ballet folks that I've had the pleasure of talking to have talked about and actually compared things to being an athlete. So like for someone who doesn't do professional dance of any type, it's like if you know what athletes go through, we go through the exact same things in terms of the amount of work we have to put in, the dedication, the sacrifices, everything that happens with our bodies, the injuries, all of that kind of stuff is the exact same things that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing baseball my whole life since I was like 3 or 4, and I stopped at around 17.
Mm-hmm.
But what was I gonna say? I'm so sorry. I just blanked out.
it's okay.
I was doing that, and I'm so sorry. I have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's New Year's Eve. It's 2020.
Yeah.
There was a question that came through about is there any specific performance or piece you would love to do?
Oh yeah. I think my goal. So I was happy to do West Side Story. That was something I always wanted to check off of my list. Dance anything by Jerome Robbins.
Hmm.
Um, but I think if I could dance anything, I would want to dance in a ballet piece called Fancy Free or Company B. So Fancy Free is about these three sailors. I think it's pretty much the same as the movie The Town. These three sailors come in, they're having fun, they meet some girls, and they're all trying to show off to see who can get the girl. And it takes place inside like a little bar.
Okay. Okay.
But Company B, it takes place during World War II, and it's about it's like, yeah, I think World War II era, about some soldiers going away, coming back. And everything around that period. It's set to the music of the Andrews Sisters, which is fun.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds cool. And one thing I was thinking about too is that since you took a dance class that your mom signed off on, and then you went to ballet, is it a safe assumption that like if there's, I don't know, if you need to learn like the Charleston or some other kind of dance that maybe you've never done before, would you be able to pick it up fairly quickly just because you've been doing dance? Or is it like, I'm really good at ballet, but some of these other things, I would be like anybody else trying to learn them for the first time?
I think having dance training, I think ballet is like a nice one to have. It gives you the foundation of a lot of things. So as a dancer, you're always learning to pick up movement. Like, of course, everyone starts off rusty and everything feels weird. But once you've been training your body and understanding what looks correct, I think picking up different styles of dance can come a little bit easier than someone with no dance training.
Okay.
But then again, there are people with no dance training and they're fabulous dancers. Like natural born dancers. They just have rhythm. And I mean, if you were to tell me, let's go to a club, and I'm like, oh, but I'm a ballet dancer. Just because I do ballet doesn't mean I'm going to be that good at the club.
Okay. I was I was just curious because I do remember there was a guy, I forget his name, but back in high school that everybody knew. It didn't matter like what circle you were in. He was a fantastic dancer, and I don't know if he had any kind of training or school or anything, but that guy could kind of basically mimic anything he saw.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, just like he has such a skill. I wonder whatever happened to that guy. But it made me think of for someone like myself that, how they say if you're a bad dancer, you have two left feet. I wish I had two left feet. That's how bad I am.
No.
So do you ever, even like you were saying, like when you were looking at the the baseball side of things, that you got to a point where like you realized, well, maybe I'm not quite going to be able to get to the level that I want to, so I'm going to pursue the dance thing. Do you ever miss baseball?
I do. I think it's been over a decade since I've even held a ball or my glove. I think they're still tucked in somewhere in my parents' house.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, what position or positions did you play?
I did like playing shortstop and third base.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Felt like they were like quick action zones. You had to be on your toes just in case of anything. So.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you must have quick reflexes then to be in those positions, the hot corner.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Industrial Girl's asking about, are there more contemporary dancers or composer writers you would like to work with?
Contemporary dancers and composers. With composers, I would say Philip Glass. I'm a big fan of his music. Max Richter too. But then at the same time, I feel like they might be a little overplayed. A lot of contemporary dancers do use them a lot. And I don't blame them because like you do listen to a lot of their music and it's nice. It's got a particular rhythm and how the music just crescendos, and I think it's powerful. Okay. But with writers, I can't think of any at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Contemporary dancers. I would love to dance anything by the choreographer Justin Peck.
Okay.
I think he's a soloist with New York City Ballet, but he's choreographed a lot. There's also a big documentary on him. I think it's called Ballet 422.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great.
I watched it from the library.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I was first starting to review the P&B, and I realized that I don't know much about anything, that I better start checking things out, from the library, any resource I could find, and that was one of the things I started watching was his documentary,
Yeah.
just to immerse myself in the world since I was so, not used to it, not coming from that background whatsoever. So yeah, it's fascinating, and that was also fascinating too about the fact, like you just said, that he's a soloist, or at least at that time he was. I don't know where he's at now, but yet he was doing all this, getting all this notoriety for his choreography. And I remember they showed that, I think, in that documentary, that he had just, debuted his new piece, and then he's backstage getting ready for whatever thing he's got to be a part of right after it. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, enjoy it for 5 minutes, because now you're back to, being a part of somebody else's, piece.
Hmm. No, yeah, I think I had seen one piece when I was still living in San Francisco. I saw the company perform one of his pieces, and that was just like what grabbed my attention. I'm like, okay, who is this guy? What's his choreography? I thought his movement was just amazing, and the fluidity, and you could see all the influences that he's had as a dancer with his movement.
How are you for yourself? Is that something, an area that you ever wanted to get into in terms of being a choreographer?
Choreography, it does pique my interest. I'm still at a point where I've tried certain things and I do get a lot of like artistic blocks. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like I could hear music. I tell Rowan, I'm like, okay, I could listen to this song and I know what can happen and I could see certain movement going, but I can't put the movement from my head into my body. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if it's just being an artist, you just hear certain things, you're like, okay, I could see this whole picture and I know how the lighting would be and how it begins and the formations, but just putting it together is the difficult part on my side.
I think it's similar for almost any artistic endeavor. So I'm like, I'll have, and you know this because you're a musician too, that sometimes I'm ready to work on a song and then I only get certain parts of it and I can't get past, like, I can't figure out a chorus, I can't figure out a bridge or whatever. So then I get frustrated as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'll have writer's block sometimes, and that's when I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So I think, yeah, if you're a choreographer, I don't think that would be any different. That sometimes from what's in your head to what actually comes out to executing it, it's almost like two different things.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're practicing or dancing just for fun?
No, yeah. And that's what's difficult too. Just let me see. Anything that I'm practicing or dance. So right now we just started rehearsing with Olympic Ballet Theater about a week and a half ago. We did a week of rehearsal, but it was all virtual. But on my own for fun, no, aside from that, I had not danced for 9 months pretty much since the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm not gonna lie, I've been pretty lazy. Like I think it's just the fact with the motivation, like we know things are bad now and it's not the same when you're not in the studio and you're stuck in your apartment. So um, nothing at the moment beside the current choreography, but
Okay.
I wish, yeah, I think once we get more access to like bigger spaces, maybe I do want to explore that and just mess around with choreography, see what I can come up with and improvise.
Okay.
Of course, the Philip Glass, but
When you first came up to Washington to start with OBT, what was that experience like? Like a month or so being there or being here?
it was different. I did not know anybody. So it was a lot to get used to. And then just like a new little town. I was living in Edmonds. Everything just felt really different coming from like a big city and into like a little town. I'm like, oh, wow, this is like a really small town. Everything closes pretty early. A lot of the dancers, when I had got there within the first few weeks, weren't there, the company members. So it'd be just me and still taking class with a few of the students.
Okay.
But then once things started, it was I enjoyed it. It was definitely different, especially with Oleg's teaching style, their technique. It was a little adapting to get into it just because my school didn't really have a particular style of dance. So getting used to what Oleg liked Because I know there's a few things where he still gets on me. He's like, no, that's not what you do. And I'm like, okay, I'm just used to this. Sorry, Oleg. Don't kill me. But what else? But yeah, it was nice. It was like right off the bat, we just got into rehearsals, and I liked that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was nice having like a set schedule and just focusing on dance and not having to work a side job for the time being. Because in San Francisco, I was working retail and dancing for a company. So it was nice the first 2 months to not have to worry about having another job and just fully commit to dance. But after Nutcracker, I was like, okay, I need to have another job just because we do have long breaks in between company life.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes sense. And one thing, if we kind of even step back, another step back, is that what was that process of like auditioning for OBT? Did you have to come up here and dance for them? You do something? You send them a videotape, or how does that work?
Yeah, it normally depends on how the companies are, their particular thing. But I pretty much sent my video reel to Oleg, and I heard back to him about a week after I sent him my stuff, and he was like, hey, I'm really interested. It took me a while to get back to him just because I was still in correspondence with other companies. And just after seeing their background, him and Mara, and what they've done, I thought this was the smart decision to come with them. It's a smaller company, which was nice. So it gives you time to shine as a dancer. Pretty much company members in a company like Olympic, we're all soloists. So it definitely gives us opportunities to dance roles that we wouldn't maybe if we were in a bigger company. And I like that. And I mean, even if you look at the students of the school, they're strong. So it tells you a good thing about their training. And that's another thing I liked about Olympic Ballet Theater.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And like I think what Oleg and Mara have been the co-artistic directors for at least 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And then the company itself has been around for, they were supposed to celebrate like an anniversary, I think, during 2020 or something. Pretty prestigious. So it's like, it's always nice when you have something that's got a history to it, and then you've got current people that have spent some time there developing whatever their vision is for the company, and then yeah, like you said, you have a chance to shine. You're not going to get, it's like, well, you would know this from a sports analogy, you're not riding the deep bench where you never get playing time. It's like, no, you're actually in there doing it so people can see you, you can feel good about what you're doing, and start living the dream. So
no, and it's been nice for my 3 years that I've been at Olympic, how much it's growing. My first year we only did, I think it was the Nutcracker, the Gala, and Coppelia. So it was 3 ballets. The following year we did the 2-story ballet, Nutcracker. We also had a mixed bill where we had choreographers come and set pieces on us. And then summer we did the excerpts of Don Quixote with other choreography by one of the faculty members. Then before COVID, we were going to do Sleeping Beauty, Nutcracker, of course, with extended Nutcracker shows. And then, yeah, we stopped before Sleeping Beauty. So it's been nice seeing how much the company has been growing and its potential, that it's still going in the right direction. Right.
Yeah, now that you mentioned Sleeping Beauty, that kind of brings me like some flashbacks, because that's when I was supposed to be there to watch a rehearsal. Oleg had invited me after I did my in-person, back when I could do in-person interviews with people back in January of this year.
Yeah.
He invited me to come back in February, and that's when I was sick, so I couldn't do it. And at that time, didn't know if I was just sick with a cold, or if I had whatever this COVID thing is I keep hearing about in the news. So I just tried to be smart, and I remember messaging him and just saying that maybe I can try to catch one once I'm well. And then that's when stuff started to already go downhill in terms of what people can do and what they can't do and all this kind of stuff. And I see Industrial Girls asking about, are there any moves that you just can't get that's driving you nuts?
I would say everything in ballet. No, yeah. It's funny because Rowan always laughs at me because, like, there are days everyone has these kind of days, whether you're a dancer or not. Some things are just not working.
Mhm.
And we'll be in class and you'll just see me. I'm just like cussing under my like breath. And I'm like, God damn it. And just storming off like upset. But yeah, I guess just because I did start really late in the game, there are a few things that terrify me as a dancer. I'm like, okay, if I do this, there's that possibility that I can just break something and that's the end of my career. So I think that's the biggest fear that holds me back as a dancer. Whereas if I would have started younger, I think when you're younger, you're a little more free to do things. You're careless. But as you get older, you really have to be careful with what you do with your body.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say pretty much a lot of the tricks the male dancers are required to perform drive me nuts sometimes. I used to hate I hate turning and I don't hate turning. I don't hate turning when they turn out great, but any other time I hate it. So my ballet teacher in San Francisco would actually make fun of me. He's like, yeah, if Carlos gets a job, he's going to write that he does not like pirouettes because I hated pirouettes. And so it's like an ongoing joke. Maybe I was just not coordinated in that sense, but.
Well, and you kind of bring up an interesting point that since you started later than some other dancers, how much longer do you have then? Like, what's the shelf life realistically for a dancer like yourself? Like, how many more years do you think you could, still hit that level that you want to be at?
That has been a difficult question lately, and I've been asking myself that. I feel like had COVID, this whole pandemic had not happened, I might be more optimistic about the fact that it could be maybe 10 years. Who knows? But I think not having dance for a few months and slowly getting back to it, my body is feeling it.
Mm.
But then there's also the fact where I'm thinking about, okay, now with how things are, I need to get a full-time job and figure out what my priorities are. So it's been an internal battle. I'm like, okay, I really want to keep dancing, but what am I going to do to make a living? And but yeah, I took class actually like an hour before I did this, and everything just hurts. Like my flexibility is not where it's normally at, and it's a little discouraging. I'm like, I hate it. But who knows? Maybe once things get a little bit better and we get back into the routine, I'll start changing my perception on it and see how much longer I think I might want to do it for. Yeah.
That makes sense. I know during the interview with Mara and Oleg that I didn't realize that Mara was in the Nutcracker version that I saw last year, and that she danced in it. And then Oleg was saying, I guess that between the two of them, he was like, he knew he couldn't do that anymore. But in her case, it's like, if you can still do it, keep doing it. Eventually, yeah, you'll wake up and be like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. So if you still haven't, and then he's even corrected me a couple times, like in the summer when we were just trying to get these interview things together. I would talk about like, hell, if you're going to do this, meaning like I'm talking to him, like, oh, like if you're going to do this, he always would say the dancers, the dancers are going to do this, and not me. And so he wanted to be like real clear that he's artistic, he's co-artistic director. He's no longer dancing now.
Yeah.
But what is this? Is there any place you would love to travel to for a performance, like a dream venue?
A dream venue? I would say I would be happy if I ever got the opportunity to dance on any Broadway venue in New York. I think that would be great. I think just because like the exposure you would get there.
Right.
I think it'd be awesome. But where else would I love to travel to? No, I think anywhere in New York. New
Okay.
York would be the spot.
Well, and that's a good segue because you mentioned it earlier that you were in West Side Story at the Fifth Avenue Theater here in Seattle, and so what was that experience like? Take me through that whole process to get involved with the show, and then once you were actually doing the performances.
Oh, so yeah, we started rehearsing, I'd say like a month and a half before performances. And it was quick stuff, just picking up the choreography. Not only that, we would have class in the mornings, work on choreography. Then we'd have voice rehearsals for our roles, then go back to other staging for other scenes. And it was like that for the first few weeks. And then we just started doing the shows, just like the full run throughs for maybe like 3 weeks. And then working with sound, getting our mics. So by the time we were actually doing the shows, we probably had already done full performances in rehearsals maybe 20 times, and then we had an additional like 20 shows, 40 shows.
Mm.
So it was a lot of West Side Story. So I don't know how people do it when they go on national tours.
Mm-hmm.
There are days where I'm like, oh man, I'm already like sick of this song, or I know what happens next just because I've heard it so many times. I know their lines. And
Yeah, well, when you think back to the performances that you had for that show, did you have any mishaps or anything that you think for yourself was kind of funny that maybe the audience never noticed, or anything more major that happened?
There were a few times where there's a section at the beginning of the performance where I had to jump off of one of the other dancers. Like he would get on he would take a knee and just bend over, and I would have to jump off of his back and land on another person. And there were a few times where my foot just slid off and the jump didn't go as planned, but you just kind of had to like play it through as if nobody knew what happened. I mean, it was a chaotic scene, so you can get away with a lot.
Okay.
Or during the first weeks of like the vocal full runs, there'd be times where I'd hear myself go off pitch, or I'd be the one, because I'm like, okay, these are definitely musical theater people. They have voice training. So I could feel myself going maybe a pitch slightly higher than them or lower, and it was a little bit off.
That's right, because you were talking about that you're a little nervous when they said that you were going to have to sing or during the show.
But yeah, because I mean, on the description for the auditions, it just said ensemble dancers, no singing required. So I was like, it's going to be fine. I don't have to worry about this. But yeah, and like I mentioned before, by like the third audition, those of us who made it up that far, we were expected to sing something. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, you're probably like, with the dance, I feel confident with the dance pieces. This is my strength. But putting, a lav mic on me and having me actually sing something, it's like, that's not what I signed up for. But I want to be here, so
yeah, I will take this opportunity as great as I can.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and you're right. I mean, I've had such I've been so fortunate that I've been able to talk to some of the musical theater people that do tour the Broadway shows when they come to town, and just hearing some of their stories. Yeah, like I think Emma was with Phantom for 2.5 years. And then Eva actually was the lead Christine for 2 years, all around America. And you're in different cities, and obviously if you have a really good cast, and that makes it bearable. But sometimes, you have to hit the same marks, the same songs, the same stuff, and it's like trying to make it new again all over for the the patrons. But sometimes you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
And you got to do the best that you can. So if you make your Broadway debut, what show would you like to perform? Oh, wow.
I think it'd be an American in Paris would be a fun one. Yeah, it's funny because right after West Side Story ended, the choreographer for us left that production to New York to start getting auditions ready for An American in Paris. And I had reached out to him. Hey, I told him, like, hey, I'm interested. He's like, can you fly to New York the next day? And I'm like, yeah, I can't, because if I get there, it's going to be like an 8-hour flight. I get there with no sleep to the audition. And I feel like if you're not really ready for an audition mentally and alert, it's going to be horrible. But I mean, COVID happened, so it would have been very like disappointing having to got on there and then like the shows being canceled because of COVID.
That's true. Something that you were really, really looking forward to, and it's like a bucket list show to be a part of, and just to have it disappear
Yeah.
off the schedule. Yeah, that would have been a hard pill to swallow for sure. And that, well, it's true of anybody. If someone got a chance to finally be on that band tour they wanted to do, and then watch it just go away, go back home. You can't do any of this stuff right now. Or with the Broadway folks, that's still closed through May, I think, is what they were still talking about for now, and
Yeah,
it might be even extended just because of the size of the venues there in New York, and can they actually make things work? But we'll find out when we get there. But I know you have a schedule to keep, and I talked for about 8 minutes, so I want to make sure that I gave you at least the full 30 minutes here that we that we had. But I really appreciate your time, Carlos. Not only tonight, but with the fun tables. I've been really enjoying, getting to know you and what you do. So hopefully in 2021, we'll either do more of this. Or
sounds good.
I can wave to you from 6 feet away or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then in the meantime, I will actually talk to you and Rowan offline, because there's something I want to mention to you. But I'll message you offline about it and see if we can make it happen in the new year. So. Thank you so much. Anyone that's watching, Industrial Girl and Captain Blackwood and my mom, thank you. Have a happy New Year, safe New Year, and I will see you all of you on the other side of this. And again, if you're not doing anything at what time did I say? It's going to be sometime on Saturday. I think it's like at 11 a.m. But look at my social media, then I'll definitely know what time I'm doing my first interview of the new year. So take care, everybody, and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.